Hi, it's Super Videos back at you for another video. In this video, I'm going to be looking at season 7 of The Walking Dead, and I'm just going to predict what we're going to see based on what we saw in the trailer. So I'm going to go through each scene in the trailer and predict when they're going to happen and where the story is going to go. This video contains some minor comic spoilers. I'm going to try to stay as spoiler free as I can, but it might contain some comic spoilers, so watch out for comic spoilers. And before I actually dive into this video, I just want to let everyone know that I've created the official Facebook page for this channel. So the link is in the description. So go there and like the page. It's actually a great place for us to go to as a community and talk about certain things that may not necessarily require a video. And I'm going to share certain reactions on that page before I talk about it in this video. It's also a great place for us to regroup if anything happens to this channel. So if this channel was to be taken down, I hope not, but if it does, then you can find me there, and then I'll let you know about if I'm going to create a new channel or what's going to happen after that. So let's get into this video. So 701, what are we going to see in the first episode? Basically, we're going to see the continuation and the completion of the Lucille death scene and its aftermath. So like we see in these pictures there in the trailer, we will see Negan pick the victim and kill them, and we'll see the aftermath of that. And if they go with what was in the comics, there's a few things left before that arc is complete. So we're going to see that. Then I think also what we're going to see in this episode is the attack on the hilltop. Now, if you watch the trailer, there was a lot of scenes with the hilltop, and it looks like it's being attacked. Now, this definitely, in my opinion, is the same night that the Lucille victim is being revealed. So it's the same night that Negan is killing one of the survivors. So then some members of the Saviors are gonna attack the hilltop and punish them for getting Rick and the group to attack the Saviors and killing them. Saviors know at this point that the survivors were hired by the Hilltop and Gregory. So I think it's only logical for the Saviors to come to the Hilltop and punish the Hilltop. So I think that's what we're going to see. And like we see in the picture in the bottom left, some members of the Hilltop, it looks like, will be killed by the Saviors. So definitely some punishment there. And then episode 2, I think what's going to happen is I think we're going to follow the group that were at the hilltop back to the sanctuary, and we're going to regroup with Negan, Dwight, and the others who are at the lineup scene. And then we're going to get a look at what life is like as a savior, and we're going to dive in deep into Dwight's storyline. Also, from the picture on the top left, we know that some members are being kept prisoner. And if you notice, they have spray painted their shirts, similar to how they spray painted the survivor from the library back in season 6, episode 16, in the finale. So I think the Saviors definitely have a strategy where they keep some people prisoner so they could help them. And it looks like they're setting up their walker shield in front of the sanctuary. So it's going to be cool to see that. I think that's going to happen in episode 2. The other thing I think is going to happen in this episode is something that happened in the comic book. So if you look at the bottom right picture, we see Dwight, who is grabbing one member from the sanctuary and is taking him, I think. And I think what's going on here is just like what happened in the comics. I think that character Dwight is grabbing is Mark. And for comic readers, you know what happens with Mark. And I think that ties back into what happened with Dwight, and we'll see basically through the eyes of Mark, we'll see what happened to Dwight. So I think that'll be very interesting. Also, I think a side story to that, which connects to the last thing I talked about, we'll see Dwight, you know, talking to Sherry, and I think they're gonna dive in deep with Dwight's backstory and what actually led him to become what he is today. So that's going to be very interesting to see. So I think we'll see that in the second episode. Then the third episode, I think we'll pick up where Morgan and Carol were. So they're going to follow these new group of people back to the kingdom. So I think even for non-comic readers, by now you know that Carol and Morgan are going to a community called the Kingdom, so it's not really a spoiler. So this episode we'll see a lot of their interaction, but also when they're getting back to the kingdom, they're going to be faced with some walkers, and Morgan and members of the kingdom are going to have to kill these walkers. And as we can see, Carol is on the ground in the picture in the top right. Carol's on the ground, she can't do anything, and I think it's because she's injured. So all of these things are, in my opinion, happening in one episode where they're getting back to the kingdom, they're facing some trouble with the walkers and trying to kill the walkers so they can get to the kingdom. And obviously, a continuation of that, we're going to see Morgan and Carol get to the kingdom, and we're going to be introduced to Ezekiel and Shiva, the tiger. And as you can see in the bottom right picture, we see Carol, who's saying, I have absolutely no idea what's going on in the most wonderful way. I think she's reacting to seeing Ezekiel, who calls himself king, with a tiger, Shiva. And this scene right here with Carol is actually exactly like the scene in the comic book. Because if you remember, for comic readers, in the comic book, when Ezekiel is first introduced, the location or the setting is similar to what we have with Carol right now. It's inside like a theater, like a school theater. So I think all of that is happening in one scene. And I think Carol will be the first to be introduced to Ezekiel. Now, Morgan may also be with her, but from what we can see with this picture, it looks like it's just her. So it's going to be very interesting to see the interaction between Carol and Ezekiel there. And I think also in the same episode, we're going to see Ezekiel and some other members of the kingdom and Morgan going on a mission. Now, I say Morgan because if you look at the second picture, you see that Morgan is wearing a different shirt. So we know this is after he got to the kingdom. So I think they're going to go together on a mission. Now, if you look at the first picture, you see it's a van with a wooden back. Now, in the third picture, you see the same truck and you see Ezekiel getting out of the car or the truck. So it basically confirms that Ezekiel is going on that mission, whatever it is. Now, in the picture in the bottom left, we see one member of the kingdom, and it's actually the same one in the bottom right picture that's in the car. So, but if you look closely, you see Ezekiel in the background carrying a ladder. So I think this person in the car is being used as a distraction so that Ezekiel and probably another member of the kingdom take the ladder to some place where they can do something, you know, something to do with the mission, maybe get supplies, maybe help someone, I'm not sure. But these things, it looks like they're happening at the same time as well. So then that gets us to episode 4. I think what we're going to see in episode 4 is we're going to get back to the sanctuary, and we're going to have Dwight and some other members of the sanctuary. I think that's Amber, but I'm not sure. It's not been confirmed. But they're going to be chasing after someone who either ran away from the sanctuary, just like Dwight did in season 6, or it's going to be a new community or a member of a new community where they're trying to stop and take their stuff, like the people with the motorcycle in season 6, episode 9. And so I think all of this is happening at the same time as well. And obviously the truck we see hit the car is the same truck that's behind Dwight, and he's shooting at someone. So I think all of these are happening at the same time. Then I think in the same episode, we're gonna go back to the hilltop and see the aftermath of the attack. And we're gonna see the saviors come back and basically see if the message has been delivered and talk to Gregory and, you know, tell them that what they did is not tolerable. And I think the picture we see in the right, it's also at the hilltop because there are walkers on the ground. And, you know, there are pigs. Now, the last place I remembered that where we saw pigs is at the hilltop. So it makes sense because the walkers were there at the hilltop and they were killed, so it makes sense for there to be walkers, dead walkers on the ground, and the pigs there as well. So I think that's also at the hilltop. So I think the next thing for this part is the saviors are going to tell Gregory, okay, we punished some of your members, we killed them, which I predict is going to happen, so they're going to kill some members of the hilltop in the attack. But I think the saviors are also going to tell them that you have to basically give us double the supplies you already do give us, which connects to the next picture of Jesus, who is basically going and grabbing some supplies from a truck, like he did back in season 6 when he was first introduced. And basically, he stole Daryl and Rick's truck. So I think that's what pushes Jesus to go look for more supplies. Now, the next part is, I think, also connected. So I think this is going to also happen where Dwight is going back after basically talking to that group who he was chasing. He's going to crash the bike and he's going to walk. Now, you see him looking up at some place. Now, first in my breakdown, I thought he's looking at maybe Alexandria or a wall, but it makes more sense that he's looking up at something else, because in another shot we see a walker falling down an overpass or a bridge, and it makes sense for Dwight to be looking up at that. Now, for comic readers, we know this ties back into Jesus, because in the comics, Jesus was there. I think in the TV show they're going to have Jesus stumble upon Dwight, and he's going to just see him, and he's going to hide, and the whole thing is going to happen where a walker is going to approach and he's going to duck, and the walker is going to fall down. So I think that's all happening at the same time. So I think Jesus is at the top of that overpass right there. So it's very cool how they remix that this story, if this is what's happening. I think all of these things are going to be happening at the same time. Then episode 5, I think that's where we're going to have the solo episode with Heath and Tara, where they're going on a supply run and they stumble upon some sort of military compound. And from these shots, it's easy to tell that this is definitely a military or a FEMA camp type compound. So they're going to go there and they're going to face some trouble. And then we have episode 6. Before I talk about this episode, this is the last episode that they filmed. From what I've heard in spoilers regarding which episodes have been filmed, it looks like they've only filmed 6 to 7 episodes. Now, they usually give us the first few episodes in the trailer, but it looks like they're giving us more this season. So I think in episode 6, which I believe is the last episode they filmed, I think we're going to be seeing the Alexandrians' point of view, and we're going to see basically Rick and the group come back to Alexandria, or maybe see them go to the hilltop first and then come back to Alexandria, or something like that. And we're going to see Negan at Alexandria coming to grab his supplies. And I think this is the same time where we see Negan killing the Walker with Lucille, because as you remember in the comics, for comic readers, this is exactly what Negan did, to tell them, okay, you're giving me half your supplies, and I'm keeping this place safe. I'm doing this as a service for you. So I think they're going to expand on that, and they're going to show that as well. Then I think the Spencer scene where he's talking to someone, I'm assuming Rick, that we should have made a deal with them when we could. I think that's happening as well at the same time. So this is actually going to lead to the next picture, in the bottom right, where Negan is, sitting down with Olivia, which is very funny, and he's drinking lemonade. Now, something like this happened in the comics. And for comic readers, you know exactly what happened, in that scene and before it. So I think this is definitely where we're going to see the iconic arc with Spencer. It's going to be great to see for comic readers. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So I think we're going to see that, and it's very exciting. Now, as far as episode 7 and 8, nothing's been shot or nothing in the trailer that points to it being shot or filmed. So as far as visuals, we have nothing, but in my opinion, I predict that this is where, from the comic book, So if you're not caught up with the comic book, or you don't follow the comics, stop the video right now because I'm going to talk about some major spoilers for the comic book. So I think we're going to see Rick, Jesus, and Ezekiel come together and declare war on the Saviors. So it's going to be basically the start, the very start of March to War. And I think the second half of season 7 is going to be all March to War. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts about what you think. If you agree with this episode guide or predicted episode guide or not, and just in general what you think of this season and what are you hoping to see. Thanks for watching. I'll be back for another video.